The shuttle descended through the thick blue atmosphere of Earth, its polished hull reflecting the endless ocean stretching far below. Inside, the alien students pressed their faces to the observation glass, their wide eyes filled with curiosity and skepticism. This was a Class 12 Deathworld, a planet so dangerous it was said to challenge survival at every turn. Yet the images from their screens revealed nothing but sparkling water, gentle clouds, and lush greenery spreading across the horizon. "Are we certain this isn't a misclassification?" asked Vexel, a pale-skinned student with a furrowed brow and a reputation for questioning everything. "It looks harmless." Professor Tharnak turned to face his pupils. His large, dark eyes held the weight of countless years and untold experiences. But today, even he seemed uneasy. "That's what makes Earth deceptive," he said in a calm, rumbling voice. "Beauty hides danger here. You'll see soon enough." The shuttle touched down in a valley flanked by ancient mountains. The students filed out, careful to activate their protective environment suits, thin layers of shielding meant to guard against Earth's infamous pathogens. Vexel was the last to exit, hesitating briefly as the ramp lowered to reveal the landscape beyond. Rolling meadows, vibrant forests, and a clear blue sky that seemed impossibly vast. Birds called from unseen perches, and a breeze rippled across the grasses, stirring an alien scent that tickled Vexel's nasal passages. "This is a death world," murmured Kieran, another student, as she crouched to examine a wildflower. Its delicate blue petals trembled in the breeze, seeming entirely harmless. "Professor, perhaps you're exaggerating. I see no threats here." Before Tharnak could respond, a flash of movement caught Vexel's eye. A small creature, furry and sleek with bright eyes, dashed out from the underbrush and paused a few feet away, its nose twitching. Vexel tilted his head. "Is that one of the dangerous predators?" The humans who had gathered to greet them, dressed in rugged outdoor gear, chuckled. It's a squirrel," said Dr. Marcus Greaves, the lead human host for the alien students. "Completely harmless unless you've got snacks. Then they can be assertive." Vexel frowned at the unfamiliar word. "What is a squirrel's method of attack?" Dr. Greaves laughed again, a sound so casual it startled the alien group. "Oh, they'll steal your food and maybe chew a hole in your backpack. Nothing lethal. Earth's real dangers are a little bigger than that." Unconvinced, Vexel extended a finger toward the creature. In a flash, the squirrel darted forward, nipping his hand before fleeing back into the bushes. Vexel cried out, jerking back and holding his injured appendage close. A scratch mark marred his suit, and small droplets of blue alien blood beaded at the seam. "Did it attack me?" Vexel demanded, his voice rising an octave. Tharnak sighed and addressed the group. "That, students, is a reminder. Even Earth's smallest lifeforms possess the will to fight. But the greater threat lies in its microorganisms. Vexel, report to the medical unit for sanitization. If that scratch carried Earth's bacteria, you may soon experience the consequences." Vexel staggered back, his face pale. "You mean I might die? From something I can't even see?" "It's possible," Tharnak said grimly, "though unlikely, given your suit's protections." He gestured to the rest of the group, ignoring Vexel's muttered curses as he was led away by a medic. "This is Earth's reality, students. Survival is a constant battle here. The very air teems with invisible life, much of it hostile. The ground shifts, the seas rage, the skies burn with fire and ice." The students exchanged nervous glances. The meadow seemed a little less peaceful now. Dr. Greaves clapped his hands together, breaking the tension. "All right, enough doom and gloom. Welcome to Earth, friends. You're here to learn, and we're here to teach you. You'll see for yourselves that humans don't just survive this death world. We thrive." The group was escorted to a fleet of rugged ground vehicles waiting nearby. As they drove toward the human research base, the alien students took in the landscape, now viewing it with suspicion. The forests they had admired moments ago now seemed dense and shadowed, hiding untold dangers. The rivers glittered like liquid silver, but they remembered Tharnak's warning about invisible microorganisms. Vexel returned to the group once they reached the facility, his hand treated and his pride bruised. The human medics laughed at me, he grumbled. I believe they found my injury amusing. You were injured by a creature 1/100th your size, said Kieran, smirking. On my world, that would be unthinkable. On your world, Tharnak interrupted, nature bends to your will. On Earth, it is the opposite. Humanity is the only species to have ever bent back. Do not forget that the human base was a low, sprawling structure of metal and reinforced glass. Inside, it buzzed with activity. Researchers analyzing data, machines humming, and displays flashing images of Earth's chaotic ecosystems. The alien students gathered in a wide room, where their human counterparts were waiting to greet them. The humans were young, like the alien visitors, but they carried themselves with casual confidence. One, a dark-haired girl named Elena, stepped forward with a grin. You must be the exchange students. Don't worry, we'll keep you alive. Mostly, Vexel narrowed his eyes. You speak as though survival is not guaranteed. It's not, Elena said, her tone still cheerful. But that's what makes it fun. As the humans laughed, the alien students looked at one another, realizing the truth. Earth's dangers weren't just real. They were embraced. And the humans, strange and fragile as they appeared, somehow thrived within them. Vexel swallowed hard, staring out the window at the untamed wild beyond the base. Welcome to Earth, he thought bitterly. The Deathworld. Word count, 700. The morning sun rose over the forested valley, casting golden light through the thick canopy. The alien students stood at the edge of the trail, their eyes scanning the untamed wilderness ahead. The humans, unfazed by the chaotic surroundings, adjusted their packs and grinned at the group of nervous aliens. Today's field trip will take us through a small section of Earth's biodiversity, Dr. Greaves explained, motioning to the dense forest. Don't worry, this is a relatively tame area. Stick with your guides and you'll be fine, Vexel muttered under his breath, glancing warily at the undergrowth. The group set out, human students leading the way with confident strides while the aliens stumbled awkwardly over uneven terrain. Why is the ground so unstable? Vexel grumbled, stepping carefully around roots and stones. Welcome to nature, Elena called back, smirking. Earth isn't a place that makes it easy for you. Kieran paused to stare at an enormous tree. Its bark was rough, its branches twisted and heavy with leaves. It's alive, she whispered. The trees here, they seem almost sentient. That's because they are alive, said Dr. Greaves. But it's not just the trees. Everything here fights to survive. There's a constant struggle for dominance. A rustling sound cut through the air, and the group froze. From the underbrush emerged a large, four-legged creature. Its sleek coat dappled in shadows, its eyes fixed on the group. What is that? Vexel hissed, taking a step back. A mountain lion, Elena replied casually. Don't worry, it usually avoids humans. Just stay calm. Usually, Kieran's voice cracked. The predator watched them for a long moment, its muscles coiled, before turning and disappearing into the forest as silently as it had appeared. The alien students exhaled collectively, their fear palpable. It hunts your species? Kieran asked in disbelief. Sometimes, Elena admitted. But we've learned to deal with it. Predators like that keep the ecosystem balanced. Balance? Vexel barked. That thing could have killed us. Dr. Greaves interjected, his voice calm. That's the reality of Earth. Everything has its place in the chaos. The predators, the plants, the weather. It's all part of a delicate, violent dance. As if on cue, dark clouds rolled over the forest, blocking out the sun. A cold wind swept through the trees, sending leaves spiraling to the ground. Thunder rumbled in the distance. What is happening now? Vexel demanded. A storm, Elena said simply. She glanced at the alien students' panicked expressions and laughed. Don't worry. It's just water and wind. The wind intensified, branches creaking overhead. Fat droplets of rain began to fall, quickly escalating into a downpour. The humans pulled on rain gear, unfazed by the sudden change, while the aliens clung to their protective suits, their discomfort growing by the second. "This is madness," Vexel shouted over the roar of the rain. "How can you live in such unpredictability?" "Adapt or die," Elena replied, her voice steady. "That's Earth for you." The storm passed almost as quickly as it arrived, leaving the group soaked and shivering. Sunlight broke through the clouds once more, turning the forest into a glittering spectacle. The humans stood tall, wringing water from their sleeves, while the aliens huddled together, their suits dripping. Dr. Greaves turned to face the group. "You see, students, this is Earth's greatest truth. It does not care about you. Its beauty is matched only by its indifference. To survive here, you don't conquer the chaos. You endure it." Vexel looked out at the steaming forest, the leaves shining in the sunlight. In that moment, he understood. Earth was a beautiful nightmare, and its people were forged in its unforgiving fire. Word count: 500. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the human research base. The alien students sat huddled together in the mess hall, their earlier confidence worn thin by the day's trials. Vexel poked at a nutrient block, his appetite dampened by lingering discomfort. Across the table, Kieran stared blankly at the distant mountains through the window, her expression unreadable. "How do humans live like this?" Kieran finally muttered. "One moment it's calm and beautiful. The next, predators or storms are threatening your life. There's no order. Yet the humans are still here," Vexel said, his voice quieter than usual. How did they manage to survive this planet for so long? Their conversation was interrupted as Elena approached the table, carrying a tray with a bowl of steaming food. She sat down casually, seemingly unaffected by the challenges Earth had thrown at them all day. "Rough first day, huh?" she said with a smirk. Vexel looked up, his frustration evident. "How did your species evolve here? A place like this should have wiped you out." Elena shrugged, stirring her soup thoughtfully. "Humans are stubborn. We're fragile creatures. Soft skin, no claws, no fangs, but we learned how to adapt. When Earth threw storms at us, we built shelters. When predators hunted us, we learned to hunt back. The more this planet tried to kill us, the stronger we became." "That doesn't make sense," Kieran said, shaking her head. "You are not the strongest. You are not the fastest. How could you possibly survive?" "Because survival isn't just about strength," Elena replied, her tone growing serious. "It's about resilience. Earth made us resilient. We fell over and over again, but we always got back up. We learned to work together, to outthink our enemies, even nature itself." At that moment, the lights flickered. An alarm blared through the base, sending the humans into immediate action. "What now?" Vexel shouted, his voice tinged with panic. Elena shot to her feet, her expression sharp. "An incoming wildfire. They're common this time of year. Everyone, move." The alien students stumbled after her, alarmed by the calm efficiency with which the humans mobilized. Outside the base, the sky glowed ominously orange, smoke billowing over the distant hills. The wind carried the acrid smell of burning vegetation, a reminder of Earth's unforgiving nature. "You just let this happen?" Vexel demanded as they climbed into an emergency transport. "We don't let it happen," Elena replied tersely. "We fight it, but sometimes nature wins. That's Earth. You do your best and you move forward." From the vehicle, the alien students watched as human crews worked tirelessly, dousing flames, clearing debris, protecting what they could. Vexel's gaze fixed on one team braving the smoke and heat to rescue trapped wildlife. It was madness, yet there was something in the humans' determination that struck him deeply. "This planet breaks everything," Vexel whispered to Kieran, "but it also builds something, unyielding." Kieran nodded, her voice soft. "Resilience." In that moment, the alien students began to understand. Earth's true strength was not in its beauty or brutality, but in the people who refused to be defeated by it. Word count: 500. By the time the alien students returned to the base, the wildfire had been contained, its destruction leaving a charred scar on the landscape. Yet, even in ruin, signs of life persisted. birds cautiously returned to the blackened trees, and small creatures scurried across the cooling earth. It was as though the planet itself shrugged off the devastation and began to rebuild. Inside the research center, the alien students gathered with the human hosts in the debriefing room. The day's events weighed heavily on them. Vexel sat quietly, his usual skepticism replaced by a somber contemplation. Kieran stared at her hands, replaying the image of the humans risking their lives to save animals and forests. Dr. Greaves entered the room, his expression firm but kind. You've now seen what Earth is. Its beauty is matched only by its dangers. I imagine you're asking yourselves, why stay here? Why fight for a place that seems intent on wiping you out? The alien students murmured in agreement. Vexel raised a hand, his voice measured. It doesn't make sense. Most intelligent species would leave a world like this behind. Seek a more hospitable home. Dr. Greaves smiled faintly. That's exactly the point. Earth doesn't make it easy to survive, but in doing so, it made us who we are. If we left, we wouldn't be human anymore, we'd be something lesser. Here, we're forced to innovate, to fight, to overcome. This planet teaches us resilience and humility in equal measure. Elena stepped forward, her voice softer. You saw the fire today. It destroyed everything in its path. But soon, the forest will grow back stronger than before. That's how Earth works. Destruction and renewal, endless cycles of life and death. And we're part of that cycle, whether we like it or not. Kieran frowned, her tone thoughtful. So you don't conquer this world? You coexist with it? We try, Dr. Greaves said, nodding. But coexistence means accepting that sometimes we lose. And when we do, we rebuild. Vexel shook his head, frustration mixing with reluctant admiration. But at what cost? Your species lives in constant danger, surrounded by storms, predators, and disasters. How can you call this a home? Dr. Greaves leaned against the table, his gaze meeting Vexel's. Because home isn't about safety. It's about connection. Humanity doesn't thrive here despite Earth's dangers. We thrive because of them. Tests us, pushes us to be better. And when we succeed, we're stronger for it. A silence settled over the room as the alien students considered his words. Outside, through the reinforced glass, the sun dipped below the horizon, setting the sky ablaze with streaks of orange and crimson. It was a violent, breathtaking display, Earth's way of reminding them of its power and its beauty. Vexel spoke quietly, his voice carrying a new weight. Perhaps that is why you survive. Earth is not a death world. It is a world that demands life to fight for itself. Dr. Greaves smiled. Exactly. And that's the lesson we hope you take back with you. Strength is not found in avoiding hardship, but in enduring it. As the alien students stood to leave, Vexel took one final look at the vast, untamed wilderness stretching beyond the base. For the first time, he didn't see chaos, he saw purpose. Earth was a death world, he thought, but it was also alive. And perhaps that made all the difference. Word count, 500.